Have you ever said, why do I keep doing this? What's going on? Why do you keep doing whatever it is that you do that you don't like, that you keep doing? A lot of people in relationships, they keep finding the crazy people, and they don't understand why, or they find abusive people, or they find themselves in situations. For me, it was always drinking. It was also crazy people. Honestly, it's hard to get away from crazy people. We're going through an emotional loop. We went through that same loop so many times that we now recognize that we keep doing it. So what do we do about it? And this is where people go, no, I don't want to do that, it's painful. I don't know why. I mean, I get it. I mean, I felt that way in the beginning too. But here's the thing. I'm going to get into this a little deeper later on, but our experiences that we've lived through, that is our past. Our past is cement. It is a wealth of information. Our memories is a time machine of information. And we pick and choose what we want to pick and choose to be to focus on. And that, I'll get into this later, but what we choose to focus on is what we end up seeing in reality. And that's about perception. But what's going on is we're going through a pattern. We need to focus on not the good, not the bad. We need to focus on the very beginning that we never even think about. This is how I got past drinking. We have to, and this is very, 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 very important if you want to do anything. We have to notice the pattern that we're doing. And the thing is we think it's going to be painful, but the painful part isn't the part that you need to focus on. The painful part is not at all like anything. And we don't need to focus on the happy stuff. That's not important either. What we need to focus on is what was going on in our life before the entire situation happened. And we have to look at the steps that we took, and we play out each one. And we don't know the first time we go through a first loop. We have to go back to an older loop. And then we look through that same thing. And then we go to another loop. So look for the patterns. And patterns are its own truth. Patterns are great. Patterns, I believe in patterns. Patterns, it's like believing in people. You look at their actions. Do they always do the same thing, but then they apologize, and then they say, okay, I'm not going to change, I'm going to change, and then they don't change, they just go back through the same pattern again? Well, these are patterns that we need to pay attention to. We don't pay attention to words. We don't pay attention to how those words make us feel. We need to focus on the patterns, regardless of our feelings. Regardless of how we like somebody, or regardless of what somebody can do for us. We need to focus on the patterns, and we need to focus on what the good patterns are and what the bad patterns are. So when we go through these emotional loops and we find out what the patterns are, and we align each one and we find the actual patterns, we need to stop that pattern by recognizing that that pattern is something that we need to pay attention to in our lives. Because no matter what, somewhere along the lines, our emotions are dictating, and they're so subtle. We don't even realize it. That's what's amazing to me. They're so subtle. Sometimes we think they're intuition. They're not. There's just a habit that we end up going through. So we have to have a red flag there. Once we recognize it, and then we know that this is what we do, the moment we start going into it, we need to come up with anything that we can do to disrupt that pattern. And this is where trying something else and seeing if that's going to get us to our desired goal of not doing that, if that helps or if it doesn't. And then if it doesn't, what went wrong and how can we change it? Scientific method. Love it. It's actually called a trivium in the occult world, but scientific process, why not? Yeah, so that really is everything, is patterns, understanding patterns. Everything is patterns, from markets to planets to energy. Everything is a pattern. Focus on patterns. It is another form of truth in our lives that we need to focus on. And use them because they're powerful. Because facts, we need to use them. Every fact that we learn is a new tool that gives us strength to get us to our goal. And remember, wealth is not about money. Wealth is about what we have here and what we feel here and where we're going. That's wealth. It's not about being better than other people. It's about having a purpose we believe in. It's about knowledge. It's about wisdom.